Hi, I'm Commissioner Mike McKeon, and I'd like to welcome everyone to another episode of the Public Works Pipeline, or as we like to call it around here, Behind the Gravel. And with me today is a very special guest, Ward 4 Commissioner Anthony Stevenson. So, Anthony, thank you very much for coming out today.
Mike, thanks for having me. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Ward 4, it's Ardmore. Can you tell everybody what parts of Ardmore you have in Ward 4?
Yeah, so Ward 4 starts from Rittenhouse Place, goes all the way down to Haverford College, in between County Line, and also on the other side, Suburban Square parking lot on Montgomery all the way down to Harcum. And then in Bryn Mawr, there's one street beside Aqua, Elliott Street. So I represent parts of Ardmore, Haverford, and Bryn Mawr.
All right, you're from South Carolina originally, and you've been on the Board of Commissioners here since 2018. What sort of drove your interest in getting involved in the board?
So I moved to Lower Merion in 2010, and it's a wonderful place. It's near my job, but one of the things I liked is the community involvement, and I wanted to be involved, particularly looking at the issues around development and sustainability and quality of life.
And from what I understand, you sort of dabble in education a little bit too. Can you explain to everybody just some of the schools you sort of been involved with?
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
So when I'm not a commissioner, I'm an administrator in Radnor Township School District. Been there since 2004. Served from principal, middle school, high school, director of secondary ed, and now elementary principal. Aside from that, I've taught at Rowan University for 20 years. Just recently retired from that, and now I teach at Villanova University as an adjunct professor of education.
And you've also been involved at Temple and Penn, correct?
Yep, Temple. I taught there at one time, and did my grad work at Penn, and so I've been around the education circle.
St. Joe's Prep as well. What have you done there?
So I was on the board at St. Joe's Prep for 6 years, and now I'm on the board at Crystal Ray High School, which is another Jesuit associated high school, which I know your job is also a sponsor at one time,
right?
With students.
We worked with Crystal Ray I was involved with it for about 4 years as a mentor, but I think it's a fantastic program.
It is.
The kids there, they get real life experience, and then usually they're sent on their way to college and bigger and brighter things. So one thing you're involved in Ward 4 is the annual Memorial Day parade and then ceremony at the cemetery. What can you tell us about your involvement with that event? So
historically, the Ward 4 commissioner is the chair of the Memorial Day committee. Can't say that it's done by my work. It's a committee of dedicated veterans and other community folks who have been a part of this. Your parents have been very actively over the years in this, and so it's been a pleasure to honor those who have fallen, so we can remember them each year.
Yeah, and as you know, it's something that's very near and dear to my heart. My dad's been involved. Barry McKeon, he's a Vietnam veteran. He's been involved as one of the organizers. My mom is sort of his partner in crime in the event. So you've worked with them for some time. You've been on the board with me for about the last 4 years. We basically sat next to each other the whole time. So as between the McKeons, do you have a preferred McKeon to work with, or a least preferred McKeon?
I have a least preferred, but the other two I like a lot.
Okay, who are the other two?
Your mother and your father.
Okay, yeah. No, I'm familiar with them. And this year coming up would be something special too, right? Because Lieutenant Short, can you explain to everybody that situation?
So Lieutenant Short was the first African American from this community to die in Vietnam. In the last year, we named Lieutenant Short Way, which was a great recognition for him, but also the community. His family has spent years honoring him, so I can't thank enough for the Short family. Also have to thank Wendell Holland, who was a part of spearheading that, and of course the commissioners and the members of the township who really supported this and put in all the help possible to make sure that this was a success.
Yeah, Lieutenant Short, died tragically in Vietnam. I think in 1967 he graduated from Lower Merion High School, and I was at the event just kind of on the sidelines in June of this past year, and there was just some fantastic speakers, yourself included, and I thought that was a really nice event, and it'll be good to honor him and other veterans next year with the Memorial Day.
Yep.
So let's talk about thoughts and chairs for a little bit. You chair the Affordable Housing Committee?
I do.
Okay.
I chair the Affordable Housing Ad Hoc Committee, which focuses on how we as a Lower Merion community can address some of those issues around affordability for folk residents here in the community. As you know, a lot of the conversation we talk about affordable housing, a lot of the focus a lot of times in urban areas or rural areas, but a suburban area like Lower Merion is often looked over, but we have needs here. And so one of the things that I'm proud of is that of unanimous support from our townships to address that. And we are going to look at entanglement, looking at how to ensure that folks who have houses passed down, that they have the adequate paperwork. So in case they need support for funding that comes from the federal government or the township, that they have the proper paperwork in place and they don't lose their homes. We're also looking at projects that we can best help folks who are renters and homeowners, because we just don't want to look at people who are potential homeowners, but also folks who are rent, particularly people who work in the area, because I think it's important for us to recognize that a lot of our workers need to be nearby to work.
And there's many great families that have been here for literally generations, and
Yes.
I think it's important to find ways to keep those families
Absolutely.
in the community, right, so they don't get priced out. So
Absolutely.
That's great that you're doing that. You're also involved in the Public Works Committee as a vice chair. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then I'm the chair of that. And for $200, can you name the other vice chair of the Public Works Committee?
For $200, I would say Rick Churchill.
That is correct. Unfortunately, we're not doing Commissioner Jeopardy right now, but if you want to see commissioners in Jeopardy, that's most Wednesday nights.
Most Wednesday nights after 6.
So, you chaired one of the meetings before for the Public Works Committee, and I just got to hand it to you. I mean, you just blew through everything. I had started the meeting, arguably created a mess, and then I had to leave. I was unavoidably detained to finish everything, and I tuned in afterwards and thought it was going to take about another hour, and I think you just shut it all down within about 10 minutes or so.
Well, efficiency is our thing there.
Yeah.
We're all about cleaning up behind. That's what Public Works is about.
And how about this? Go for the green, right? Ardmore, Ward 4, you brought home the hardware this year with 3 winners.
3 winners. One of the things I will say that we have a colleague, Ray Courtney, who is known as Mr. Sustainability. He has all about green. However, we wanted to let him know and put him on notice that Ward 4 also is a commitment there. We want to thank Joe McNeil, who was the resident, live on Holland Avenue, who was able to win the award. He's also on the Shade Tree Committee. We also had the Ardmore Civic with the work that the volunteers have done on an abandoned lot that created a park, and at Bethel AME that had an honorable mention around the work they've done around their gardening.
Yeah, I saw some photos that the Ardmore Progressive Civic had posted that showed that lot at Sheldon Lane and Elm, and it was turned into this vibrant pollinator garden. You can go to their website if you access it through Facebook. It's facebook.com/Ardmore Progressive Civic Association, and it was just really cool to see how that had changed and had done so much there. Let's go out on a limb and talk about leaves for a little bit. It's the fall season. Leaves must be placed in the curb in biodegradable brown paper bags and for weekly collection on your normal refuse day. You can purchase leaf bags from your local hardware store to the extent there are any left, or you can also buy them from the Kegel Complex at 1300 Woodbine. There's a 50-pound limit per bag. The Public Works employees have to lift these things, so 50-pound limit, no rocks or soil. And please do not burn the leaves or sweep them into the street. Once they're collected, the leaves are not just dumped into the Schuylkill River as part of some evil plan of the Public Works Department. They're actually taken to the Waverly site in Gladwin, which is 17 acres dedicated to composting that's right along the expressway. The Public Works produces well over 500 tons of leaf compost and grindings per year through this process. So it's been very successful as a way to, get out with the old and then sort of bring in some new composting. One of the things we talked about at our very last Board of Commissioners meeting was the Covanta contract. We have a waste hauling and disposal contract through the township, and it was up for renewal this year. And at Covanta, it's about 10 miles away, and that's an incinerator where we take the solid waste and it's then incinerated, turned into carbon dioxide. The cost is $88.13 per ton. And we also looked at a landfill option, but the landfill was $126 per ton. So when you consider there's about 18,000 tons that the township goes through a year, there's a huge cost difference. And interestingly enough, we've looked at the environmental impact there, and the landfill is actually much worse for the environment because of
methane.
Methane gas. 25 times worse for global warming as opposed to carbon dioxide. So you've got this stuff in the ground, and God knows what can come of it. And then even just disposing gradually over time, there's a big impact, unfortunately.
It sounds like Commissioner Courtney has another colleague that he has to compete with about sustainability.
We might call him Commissioner Ears Are Burning at this point because I don't know. But that actually was everything we had in our first segment. So please, everyone, stick around. I'm going to hope that Commissioner Stevenson doesn't try to cut and run when no one's looking. And hopefully we'll come back with a second segment soon. So please stick around. Hi, I'm Commissioner Mike McKeon, and I'd like to welcome everyone back to the Public Works Pipeline for the second half of our show. With me here is Commissioner Anthony Stevenson. He didn't leave during the break, so Anthony, thank you for not running away. We've got a little ways to go here. Before the break, we were talking about the Covanta fee there with their incinerator plant, and our solid waste fee is something that we were also discussing at the last Board of Commissioners meeting. We won't vote on it until the end of the year, but the Covanta rate was actually up 22% for incinerating our waste from last year. And as expensive as that was, that's actually the cheapest option that we have. So our solid waste fee, which is our trash fee, that's a self-funded enterprise fee. So you might think, well, with Covanta raising its rate 22%, we're in trouble. We're going to have to raise the trash fee. And the good news is that as a result of, I think, a lot of the considerations in our COVID world, the supply and distribution chains have really slowed down, and I think that's one of the reasons why the Covanta rate went up, but so too did our recycling rate. And as of, I think, 2019, the township was getting $23 per ton for recycling for paper. And that rate, as of now, is $123 per ton. So, we see the price of commodities going up, but the good news is that although these prices have gone up, there's some balancing. So at this stage, we don't anticipate any kind of increases for the solid waste fee for residents at this point. Anthony, I also wanted to thank you again for coming and for not leaving during the break. So the special gift for you here for coming out on the Public Works Pipeline, this is a leaf bag.
I appreciate this.
Yeah.
Mike. I will use this as soon as I get home.
Thank you. And when you use it, please think of the show. And I'm sorry we ran out of fruit baskets, but this is the best we could do.
This is just as good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very welcome. And we have two public, fall cleanup events coming up soon. On October 9th to 10th, there is the household unwanted waste disposal. This is the free cleanup weekend, free of charge, like I said, for township residents. Due to CDC guidelines, everyone needs to wear a mask who comes, and there will be no crews available to help with waste. But that's October 9th and 10th. And then October 24th is Household Hazardous Waste Week. So what you're going to need to do, if you have plutonium or paint or pesticides, please don't bring those to the October 9th or 10th cleanup. But on the October 24th, that's going to be the time to drop off the paints and the pesticides. So through with the PSAs, let's talk a little bit about the mini can now for waste. You are, I believe, the only commissioner who is able to get by on a mini can. Everyone else has multiple cans. How do you do it?
Well, there's several ways I do it. One is that I'm a strong advocate of sustainability and recycling, so I try to make sure that I maximize my recycling piece. The other piece is, as a single bachelor, it's a little easier when there's only one person in the house versus other. And so I understand the need for the multiple use of cans. However, I can't stress enough the need for folks to try to use either recycle or reusable containers as much as possible.
Yeah, and for the record, I know when it's just my wife and I who are home, we have this much waste, but we have 2 teenage daughters who, when they're home, it increases exponentially. So the waste in our house is not my fault or my wife's fault. It's all the fault of my children. Now, you're also kind of like a full-service commissioner in a lot of ways, too. What happened? You got involved with some actual snow shoveling?
Well, I mean, one of the things I'll say, first of all, is that as the town, as we prepare for the winter, I stress for folks to please make sure that they're preparing for the winter, because we have a lot of folks who are disabled and elderly, or just regular folks who need to use sidewalks. We need to make sure we clean the sidewalks. This incident you're talking about is that residents at the Ardmore house, a snow plow blocked the access for them to get to the post office, and it was a weekend, and I shoveled them out. So we can all do our part.
Yeah,
and I know you would do the same. In Belmont Hills.
Thank you for making the rest of us on the board look so bad. But no, that's great. And wanted to ask you about just some issues in Ardmore too. The Ardmore Avenue Community Center. That's something that's kind of gaining some momentum. What's going on with that?
Well, the Ardmore Community Center and the Palm are both being reviewed for possible renovations or being reconstructed. It is something, particularly the Ardmore Community Center, something that's been in discussions for decades. So I'm happy that the board unanimously said that approved a feasibility study, which is in the process now. And there's a community meeting going to be coming up in which we will share that out to the public, where the public can give their input, and then it'll come back to the board for a discussion about what next steps should we take around both of those. The Ardmore Community Center, which serves youth and other parts, not only Ardmore, but the entire township, and our Palm, same thing about we need to make sure that we are taking care of the needs of our senior citizens, and Palm has done a great job, and we look forward to expanding that work and continue it over the years.
And we could possibly get some of those ARP funds, right?
Well, we hope so. I mean, we are, there are 14 of us trying to get a piece of that pie. I know what I want. I'm sure you have a couple of things that you want for your award, and so I hope that be a part of it as well.
Yeah, speaking of wants, I mean, I think a lot of the commissioners recently got emails from numerous residents about a skate park. The emails tended to have almost the identical body in there, but with a little different. It was kind of a cut and paste job for some. But it's a nice idea. What's going on with the skate park?
Well, I mean, the skate park has been a grassroots effort from residents all over the township, and we are, I am, and other members of the commissioners feel that it's something we look at. So we were working with the director of Parks and Rec to look at particular options of possible locations, and so I look forward. I'm excited about that endeavor as well.
Have you, in terms of locations, are there any? What locations?
Worth
my house or
your backyard.
Wouldn't be a very big skate park, but
no, I think that one of the Charlie Doyle, who is the assistant director of planning, has done a great job of working with this group of not only identifying 5 to 10 potential spots, but also talk about the feasibility of them. So that's where it is right now.
How about community policing? That's something I think has become a bigger issue nationally. How do you see community policing in Lower Merion?
Well, I mean, I've gone on record several times, as you know, to advocate community police, and I think that the relationship between police and the community is important. I will say, and I've said it publicly, that our leadership of our police have done a great job of, when it comes down to incidents or issues in our community, of respond. There's the minority committee that addresses issues, but not only that, when there are issues that come up, the training and stuff. So we've done a good job. But the community policing, where they're walking the beat, they're in the community, people know who they are, I think that's important. Relationships and communication is key, and I think if we work to expand that work, I think it will help our great police force become even greater.
Yeah, and the Police and Minority Relations Committee, I mean, I grew up in Lower Merion, and I think that's existed for about 30 years or so. I didn't know what it was until I got on the board in 2018. And then I think the first time I went to a meeting, you were at the meeting, you introduced me, I think you forgot my name, but that was my only experience with that, and that's something I think a lot of residents don't know about. So the meetings are almost monthly, right?
They're monthly meetings, and they have been, yes, they give input on things that are happening in the community and give suggestions to the police committee. So I think it's a successful model that should be taken other places.
And you got numerous police officers at the meeting, and then also community leaders, and then any members of the public can also attend, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean that's a nice it's a nice feature, and I wish I'm glad to know about it now at least. But and the Ardmore train station, that seems like it's coming along, right?
Well, I think it is coming along. There have been some delays because of COVID and otherwise, and bureaucracy holdups. But other than that, I think that once it's finished, it'll be a beautiful project, and I hope that it has a domino effect to the other stations in my ward, which includes the Haverford station and Bryn Mawr.
Now, as a commissioner, what would you say is are sort of exciting parts of the job for you? I mean, there are things you really...
Well, the number one thing is that I get to work with 13 other folks who, while we don't always agree, we are like a family and work together with the common goal for making positive change and for our township. Other than that is to help my constituents address certain issues and get them resolved.
And how do you stay in touch with your constituents? I mean, do you have a newsletter or email?
I do. I have a newsletter that I send out and a Facebook page that I post information. And if folks want to get on my newsletter, they should email me, and I will make sure that they are part of that communication.
Yeah, and I think too, that was one of the surprises for me, pleasant surprises on the job is, kind of the camaraderie on the board. Not just going to the meeting, but sometimes hanging out before a meeting, after a meeting, gotten to know a lot of people that went. I wasn't expecting the friendships to come around as much. So, last question here: do you have any kind of goals, things you'd like to see done as you're, through your position as commissioner?
Well, hopefully I will win re-election, and if I do, this will be my last term, and I hope to finish up the community center in the Palm. I hope to get the affordable housing work done, and I hope that you and I can build a better friendship.
I guess we should keep trying to build on that. And the election seems like it's going well, right? You don't have an opponent, so that makes it helpful.
It's helpful.
Yeah. Well, I can start hearing the Oscar music going on in the background. That's all the time we have for today. But thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. And thank you very much, Commissioner Stevenson, for coming out here. And again, I mean, this brown bag is really the least we can do. But
I will represent this with much pride in my community.
Thank you.